Yo, what's up? Welcome to this video today. My name is Chris. I'm a creative entrepreneur, and in today's video, I'm going to share with you the #1 mistake people make when starting a brand and how to prevent it through a very simple systems and processes that I'll give you in this video. But before we get started, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. And at any time I create value for you in this video, give it a like. And if you got a question, drop it in the comments below. So let's get started. #1. What is the common mistake people make when starting a brand? I would say that they just start creating. They're so excited and like inspiration comes in and they're just like, fuck yeah, this is it. This is gonna change my life. And they just go to town and they'll just start building a website or like a logo and they're just doing all this stuff aimlessly or even like putting out posts on Instagram. And then before you know it, you like see them and they're like, hey, how's your brand going? What's your brand called? Or who do you serve? And they're like, I don't know yet. We kind of do everything, and we kind of help everyone. Yeah, we're this first brand that's doing this. And whenever people say that, I'm like, okay, well, this is going to come as a shock. Because essentially what they don't have is like, they haven't done any branding, but they say they have a brand. And this is funny because like general basics in branding can be very simple. Like even with AI, you can get on Google Gemini, you can get on ChatGPT, and you can be like, hey, Gemini, here's my brand. It's called Weekender Collective, and I want it to be an adventure, travel, creative, lifestyle brand, and target other people who want to be entrepreneurs, and then also pair them on a platform with people who want to be coaches, and create this all-in-one experience. Can you create brand guidelines for me? And if you do that, it's going to kick out. Like, you want to give AI as much information as possible, but what you want to do is tell it exactly what's on your mind and keep it as concise as possible. Because the one thing that you don't want to do is confuse people. And if you're over here, with a logo and font that don't make sense together on a website that has a color palette all over the place, and you're essentially just spraying out content, people are going to be very confused. And though they might not tell you because they're your friends, they're going to be like, wait, is this a travel brand? Is this a clothing company? This is stuff I've dealt with on even my brand Weekender and even having this experience. But the simplest thing that you can do with all this stuff is to not confuse your people. What you want to do is organize and aggregate your thoughts by creating this really simple brand guidelines. And by doing that through Gemini or through ChatGPT, essentially it'll create a foundation. So what you'll get is, or what you should ask it to create is a mission statement that just describes who you are or what your brand does. Then it should have a vision statement, which is essentially the vision of the brand moving forward. What does your brand want to help people do? Or what is its mission? The mission and the vision of the brand. From there, you're going to need to create, or it'll create like some core values. So like for my travel company, Weekender, it is freedom, adventure, community, collaboration. You kind of get the gist, right? And then beyond that, what it's going to kick out is what you call a brand tone. So whenever you're speaking to people through your brand, whether it be a personal brand or a company, you need to essentially give it a tone, right? Like Weekender Collective is very inspirational. It's very empathetic. It's very adventurous. Like you get the words. Like we're not gonna create this like super soft content and be like, "Are you sad? Yes, we are too." It's gonna be more like, welcome to Weekender Collective. When you put on this shirt, you're going to feel like you just drank a Red Bull and did a line of Coke. I don't know. You get the gist, though. It's very, like, adrenaline seeking, right? So it can't be, like, soft and sad. And it's like, this is your passion. This is your future. Like, that's the tone we put out on everything. It's like hands up in the air when I'm talking. That's the tone of the brand. But you gotta ask and understand what your tone is, too. Because, say you're speaking to women, this is why it's even good to know your target audience. We'll get to here in a second. But if you're speaking to women, you want to be softer. You want to be more empathetic. And if you're hitting them from like a leadership side, you want to push them a little bit. But if you're talking to guys, like you want to be rigid. You want to be tough. You want to be like, So even in that, it's like creating your tone is huge. And even your tone you create can help you pick if you're talking to more males or females or both. And if you do both, then you're going to have a little bit of rigidity and a little bit of softness. You get what I mean? So there's all these different aspects. And then target audience and market. This is very important because, for instance, like my brand byCHRIS. Well, we can even do Weekender here. Weekender its target market is 25 to 34-year-olds, and they're male and female, primarily males, but essentially 25 to 34. So all the content I create has to hit that market, which is adventurous. It's fun. They love to explore. It's fast. It can be quick. But if you're targeting, like what I'm getting at, somebody who's older, if you're targeting older people, like you gotta make sure you're putting your content out there in a way that's receivable to them. Like a fast Instagram reel, they're gonna be like, honey, I couldn't see that. Or, whatever my grandma would say. But, like you gotta relate to the people. And then if you're, for instance, like even like targeting males or females, like know what colors kind of resonate with those. If you're targeting dudes with pink, they probably won't do it. But you get what I mean? So you got to put all this together. And if you brain dump into Google Gemini or ChatGPT and are just like, hey, I've started a brand, it's called this. Here's what I want to apply to it. Create brand guidelines for me, focusing on a mission statement, a brand vision, values, tone, fonts, color palettes. Just have it do it all, and you're gonna be blown away. And then what you can even do is go into Notion. I'll try to link it below in this video, but essentially there's a template that you can essentially create brand guidelines, and you can upload the fonts and photos into it so that even like you can give it to other people who are working with you on your brand. Or like if you have an editor or somebody that you're hiring as a freelancer, you're like, and I love this as a freelancer when companies do it, and I can tell how professional they are. They're like, here's our brand guidelines, and I'm like, fuck yeah, thank you. And then I can also hand it to other creators and be like, here's my brand guidelines, so now I won't have to tell you the color, the fonts, or anything. It's all in there, so when we do work, we know exactly what we're creating. And even as a creative, you're a creative visionary like me, like having these guidelines to anchor you down is so important. It's so fucking important, because essentially what it does is, like me, I'll go down these rabbit holes. So say like each finger's a rabbit hole here, right? Like, whoop, I'm like, ooh, let's go down here. And I forget to come back. So I keep on going. And then before you know it, I built a whole brand off of one of my rabbit holes when I should have just came out here, whoop, went back in, whoop, whoop, whoop. You get the gist? But I like to keep going. So brand guidelines essentially really help keep me like in the same slot so that I don't build new spots of the brand that haven't developed yet, because what I'll even do, even on like Weekender or byCHRIS, is simply before I release the content, ask if what I'm creating is aligned with the vision and with the guidelines. Because if it's not, it's going to confuse people. And you don't want to confuse people. You want people to feel like they understand you more and more and more. And the more that they understand your brand, the more they're going to work with you if they're in your target market and audience. You get what I mean? But if you're confusing them, then they're going to be like, wait, is this a travel brand? Is this a clothing company? Is this a platform? What is it? Or like, I did too much retreats one year, and people were like, you're just shooting retreats now, aren't you? And I'm like, absolutely not. No. So, make sure you're consistently putting out stuff too that showcases your brand in different ways. But make sure it fits the guidelines, because this will really help connect all the dots. And essentially when people see you have all these dots together, it's going to increase the value of your company too, right? Because if you use the same font, you have a color palette that works, your website, portrays your branding, your fonts match your branding, and you can solve a specific problem and it all comes together. We call that a brand. That's an experience. That's like, for instance, like Lululemon. When I wear a Lulu, I feel like doing yoga, and I feel like lounging, and I feel like an entrepreneur. And essentially, like, that's Lulu's target market, right? Like, they have the business clothes, they have the lounge clothes, and they have the yoga clothes and the mats. When you wear a Lulu, you feel like relaxing or working or getting stuff done. You get what I mean? Like, it's like that nomadic, luxury nomad vibe, right? No wonder I love it. So essentially thinking about that too with your brand is like, what experience do you want people to have? Or what is the major problem or solution thing that you're solving, and then relate that back to all your branding. But overall, start with brand guidelines. Don't just go and freely create, because you're going to create a mess. And then when it comes time to rebrand, or even like when you're trying to get started, like you're going to confuse people. Then when it comes time to rebrand, it's going to be an absolute fucking nightmare. And then you're going to be like, damn, wish I would have done something. And this is that something that you could do just to set the foundation. Make sure you get your brand guidelines, and then you can even build out a template in Notion. And then bam, before you know it, you're going to be smooth selling. You're going to be making like $100K a year. You're going to be like, damn, how'd I do it? And it all started with these brand guidelines. So guys, peace out. Have a nice day, and we'll see you in the next video.